Pan-Borneo Highway to be redesigned due to soil movement. Armed forces continue to maintain top-level border control. Good evening and Salam Malaysia Madani. My name is Daryl Baptist and this is Malaysia Tonight. Package 11 or WPC 11 of Pan-Borneo Highway will be redesigned following soil movements in certain areas involved in the original plan. According to Works Minister Datuk Seri Alexander Nantalingi, the redesigned work is expected to take at least 2 years to complete.
Rangka bentuk asalnya tidak dapat kita pakai kerana tanah itu dia selalu bergeraklah, runtuh. Jadi kita perlu buat rangka bentuk semula iaitu redesign, iaitu menggunakan macam jembatan overland ini dipanggil viaduct. Jadi sepanjang 300 meter panjangnya nanti. Jadi ini perlu kita buat dengan secara rangka bentuk yang lain daripada asalnya, redesign.
WPC 11 includes highway construction works from Sungai Tangkap to Pujut Link in Mira. As of May last year, the construction works for the Pan-Borneo Highway has reached 89% of completion. The Malaysian Armed Forces, also known as ATM, consistently maintain highest level control of the country's borders to safeguard national sovereignty and prevent encroachments. Defence Minister Datuk Seri Mohammed Khalid Nordin said continuous control achieved through various operations on land, air, water and areas with overlapping claims involves round-the-clock monitoring and patrols at ATM posts nationwide.
Kita ni negara maritime, kita punya sempadan dengan banyak negara dan kita punya coastline juga panjang. Dia ada macam-macam ops, bukan satu saja. Tapi setakat hari ini kita sentiasa bersedia untuk memastikan operasi-operasi ini berjalan dan kita dapat melakukan pencegahan.
He was commenting on ATM's achievements in various operations, some of which are carried out in collaboration with other agencies. ATM operations are conducted constantly to ensure sovereignty and prevent encroachments, whether by foreign warships or fishing boats. Datuk Seri Mohammed Khalid also said that acquiring new assets is an ongoing process to ensure ATM's preparedness. Besides that, he said ATM regularly enhances its capabilities, skills and experience by conducting military exercises in cooperation with other countries. Johor Menteri Besar Datuk On Hafiz Ghazi today confirmed a reshuffle to the Barisan Nasional-led state government involving a number of portfolios will take place next week. The reshuffle, he said, was meant to strengthen the management and administration of the state.
Dari segi reshuffle portfolio ESCO tak dibincangkan dalam mesyuarat pada hari ini.
Dengan bila agaknya kerajaan negeri akan umum?
InsyaAllah kalau ada pun nanti kita akan maklum dalam masa terdekat. Akan ada tapi tidak is minimum.
He said this after chairing the Johor UMNO Liaison Committee meeting in Johor Bahru today. Also present were Johor UMNO Liaison Committee Deputy Chairman Datuk Seri Ahmad Mazlan, Secretary Datuk Abdul Halim Sulaiman and Pasir Gudang UMNO Division Chief Datuk Seri Mohammed Khalid Nordin. On Thursday, Datuk On Hafiz, in his speech at a Chinese New Year gathering, said he would be taking over the state tourism portfolio. He had previously held the tourism, youth and sports portfolio before he was sworn in as Menteri Besar on 15th March 2022. The decision by the federal court to strike down 16 provisions in the Kelantan Sharia Criminal Code Enactment 2019 on Friday was solely because they exceeded the jurisdiction granted to the state legislative body. However, the Department of Sharia Judiciary Malaysia, or JKSM, said that actions contrary to Islamic law still constitute an offence under Sharia law. The same offence can still be enforced under relevant laws, such as sodomy under the Penal Code and halal under the Trade Descriptions Act. This decision can also be described as strengthening the Islamic law in Malaysia. The federal court in its judgment stated that the takzir punishment found in the Sharia court is in line with the Penal Code in the civil court, and the indication is that there has been harmonization between civil and Sharia law. The decision also meant that the Dun had a role to play in ensuring that every enactment enacted did not exceed the powers it had before a provision was enacted. The decision by the Royal Pardons Board is final and cannot be challenged. Law and Constitution expert Professor Dato Dr. Shamrahayu Abdul Aziz said that the decision is in line with Article 32 and Article 181 of the Federal Constitution.
Keputusan yang dibuat oleh Yang di-Pertuan Agong itu tidak boleh disemak semula oleh Badan Kehakiman. Maknanya Mahkamah tidak mempunyai kuasa untuk menyimak semula atau mempersoalkan keputusan yang dibuat oleh Yang di-Pertuan Agong tersebut. Oleh itu, apa sahaja yang diputuskan oleh Lembaga Pengampunan adalah di bawah budi bicara Yang di-Pertuan Agong dan ianya tidak boleh dipersoalkan.
Article 32 of the Federal Constitution provides that Agong is not liable to any civil or criminal proceedings in any courts except in special court. The same provision is also mentioned in Article 181, which touches upon sovereignty, prerogative, powers and jurisdiction for rulers within their respective territories shall remain unaffected. Coming up next, subsidised sugar supply sufficient for festive season and school holidays. The current stocks of subsidised sugar is adequate to sustain and meet demands throughout the Chinese New Year festive season as well as the school holidays. The matter was confirmed by sugar wholesalers following the expected increase in demands for sugar beginning this week.
Sekarang soal cukup lah, soal lebih. Sampai kita tanya customer cakap cukup, semua cukup sementara. Mencukupi. Jangan risaulah tentang gula. Banyak sekarang. Kita tak sorok gula. Bekalan cukup lah.
Kalau lesen ada, mesti kita jual. Jadi dia ada lesen.
Betul. Over 1,000 metric tons of subsidised sugar have been distributed to some 2,000 grocery stores at the northern regions of Malaysia before the festive season began. They were distributed in Kedah, Perlis and Pulau Pinang. Meanwhile, another 5,000 metric tons will also be distributed after the Chinese New Year holidays. The proposal to nominate Kampung Baru Cina in Selangor as a World Heritage Site of UNESCO is still in the early stages. Housing and Local Government Minister Nga Kor Ming said a comprehensive feasibility study must be carried out first to assess the proposal's viability before it can be tabled to the Cabinet.
Oleh kerana itu, pada peringkat kementerian, kita cuma akan membuat kajian awal dulu. Feasible study, empirical studies, tengok sama ada mungkinkah. Bukan kita nak orang nak bagi. Itu memang satu pengiktirafan yang amat berprestij. Apabila kita dapat ada kemungkinan perkara ini boleh dijalankan, maka saya akan angkatlah untuk perbincangan di peringkat kabinet. Barulah kita ke jemaah menteri membuat keputusan.
Nga also reminded that the issue should not be used as a political tool, as it is still in early stages and is not finalized yet. Aside from Kampung Baru Cina, he also expressed support for the same recognition to be given to the Kampung Tradisi Melayu. The minister recently said that the proposal to nominate Chinese new villages in Selangor as a UNESCO World Heritage Site was to recognize their cultural and historical importance since they were formed 76 years ago. The Langkawi Development Authority, also referred to as LADA, is targeting for over 200,000 visitors into the island every month. Its Chief Executive Officer, Datuk Haslina Abdul Hamid, said that throughout the first 11 days of this month, the number of visitors has reached 50,000 people. She said over 30,000 of the aforementioned visitors had come into the island via air travel services, involving some 24 flights daily. The rest of them had travelled to Langkawi via ferry.
Kalau dari segi target kita lah setiap bulan kita menganggarkan lebih kurang 220,000 hingga 250,000 ketibaan pelancong daripada dalam negara dan luar negara. So kita tengok sehingga hari ini 11 hari bulan, lebih kurang 50,000 dah datang ke Langkawi untuk menikmatilah apa yang kita sediakan di sinilah.
Datuk Haslina is also expecting the number of tourists entering Langkawi for the rest of the month to rise, following the increase in special chartered domestic flights and international flights headed into the legendary island. Up next, in our foreign front, Myanmar junta enforces mandatory national service law. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Hundreds of workers are deployed to remove campaign banners, flags and other displays from the streets in Indonesian capital Jakarta as the campaigning period has ended. The Southeast Asian nation is set to vote for president, vice president and legislative members in what is dubbed as the most complicated elections in the world. Indonesians vote in a presidential election Wednesday, with Defence Minister Prabowo Subianto the clear favourite among a campaign mixing nationalistic rhetoric and pledges to continue the era of popular outgoing leader Joko Widodo. The former general lost to Widodo in 2014 and 2019, but is on course to finally lead the world's third largest democracy after rehabilitating his image. Widodo is constitutionally barred from running for a third term, but his popularity hit all-time highs last year, with polls showing he would have likely won another election. Instead, he is playing kingmaker for his defence chief and eldest son, who have joined forces on the same ticket. Polls project Subianto to win a majority from nearly 205 million Indonesians, who will dip their finger in ink at more than 800,000 polling stations. Battling the 72-year-old for a potential second-round runoff vote if he falls short are former Jakarta Governor Anies Baswedan and former Central Java Governor Ganjar Pranowo. The Philippine Coast Guard on Sunday accused Chinese vessels of dangerous maneuvers during a 9-day patrol near a reef off the coast of the Southeast Asian country. The Philippine vessel BRP Teresa Magbanua was deployed in early February to patrol the waters around Scarborough Shoal, a rich fishing ground in the South China Sea, and to ensure the safety of Filipino fishermen in the area. The reef has been a flashpoint between the countries since China seized it from the Philippines in 2012. The Philippine Coast Guard in a statement said during the patrol, Chinese Coast Guard vessels performed dangerous and blocking maneuvers at sea against BRP Teresa Magbanua 4 times, with the CCG vehicles crossing the bow of the PCG vessel twice. The Philippine Coast Guard said its ship was also shadowed by 4 Chinese Coast Guard vessels on more than 40 occasions. The incidents came 2 months after tense standoffs between China and the Philippines around disputed reefs in the South China Sea that saw a collision between vessels from the two countries and Chinese ships blasting water cannon at Philippine boats. Chinese and Philippine officials last month agreed on the need for closer dialogue to deal with the maritime emergencies in the waterway. Myanmar's junta is enforcing a law allowing the military to summon all men aged 18 to 35 and women aged 18 to 27 to serve for at least 2 years as it struggles to crush opposition in its 2021 coup. The Southeast Asian nation has been in turmoil since the military takeover in February of that same year, which ended a 10-year experiment with democracy and sparked mass protests and a crackdown on dissent. 3 years on, and the junta is still struggling to crush widespread armed opposition to its rule, and recently suffered a series of stunning losses to an alliance of ethnic minority armed groups. The junta issued the notification of the effectiveness of People's Military Service Law starting from 10th February 2024. All men aged 18 to 35 and women aged 18 to 27 must serve for up to 2 years, while specialists like doctors aged up to 45 must serve for 3 years. The service can be extended to a total of 5 years in the ongoing state of emergency. Those ignoring summons to serve can be jailed for the same period. The law was authored by a previous junta in 2010, but was never brought into force. The Myanmar junta announced a state of emergency when it seized power in 2021, with the army recently extending it for a further 6 months. Finns on Sunday morning started voting in the presidential runoff in which centre-right Alexander Stubb of the National Coalition Party is the front-runner, according to opinion polls. Stubb, a former Prime Minister, won the first round of the election on 28th January with 27.2% of the ballots, ahead of Liberal Green Party member Pekka Haavisto on 25.8%. He has also beaten Haavisto in surveys, most recently by 6 to 8 percentage points. Both candidates are pro-European and strong supporters of Ukraine, having taken a tough stance towards Russia in their campaigns. The new president will have a central role in defining Finland's NATO policies, while leading on overall foreign and security policy in close cooperation with the government and acting as commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Stubb himself had voted in Espoo, just outside Helsinki, with his wife Suzanne Ines Stubb. After voting, Stubb said he was feeling relaxed, but that he expected a few butterflies before the announcement of the pre-votes. Official data showed nearly 46% of those eligible to vote cast their ballots ahead of Sunday, with the first results from advanced votes due to be published shortly after polls close at 6 p.m. local time. The winner is expected to be announced around 9 p.m. local time. 6 people, including a chief executive officer of one of Nigeria's largest lenders, were killed in a helicopter crash in Southern California. According to the National Transportation and Safety Board, NTSB, 6 people were on board the helicopter when it crashed around 10 p.m. local time near Holoron Springs, California, on Friday, while it was en route to Boulder City, Nevada.
The crew consisted of a pilot in command and a safety pilot. The accident flight was operated by Orbic Air LLC as a Part 135 charter flight. Witness reports of the weather conditions at the time of the accident suggest rain and a wintry mix. The helicopter was not equipped with a cockpit voice recorder or a flight data recorder.
One of the 6 passengers was Access Bank Group CEO Herbert Wegwi, whose death was confirmed by Nzogi Okonjo-Iweala, Director General of the World Trade Organization, in a post on X, along with that of Nigerian Exchange Group's former chairman Abimbola Ogunbanjo.
Tolerant Springs is about 75 miles.
Vast fields across Morocco languish as the country grapples with its 6th consecutive year of drought. According to Morocco's Agriculture Ministry, more than 88% of the Berechid's vast agricultural lands are not irrigated, with farmers relying instead on rain. Yet, so far this year, the North African country has seen only about half the rainfall it did during the same period last year. This has occurred in parallel with temperatures in Morocco increasing by an average of 1.8 degrees Celsius compared to the period between 1981 and 2010. In recent weeks, Moroccan authorities have restricted the opening of hammams and car wash stations in several cities and prohibited the watering of golf courses or gardens with drinking water, as the country's dams are at only 23% capacity, compared to around 32% last year. The successive years of drought are compromising this agricultural season. Fearing the effects of the prolonged water scarcity, farmers have already reduced the size of areas in which they sowed cereals. The situation is expected to have a serious impact on the economy of the country, where a third of the population works in agriculture. Madrid crushes La Liga title challengers Girona. That and more next in sports.
Saya Teo Ning Ching, Timbalan Menteri Komunikasi. Di sini ingin mengucapkan selamat menyambut Tahun Baharu Cina kepada masyarakat Tionghoa di Malaysia. 新年快乐，恭喜发财！
Good evening, this is the sports. A Jude Bellingham brace and goals from Vinicius Jr. and Rodrigo gave Real Madrid a crushing 4-0 win over La Liga title challengers Girona on Saturday, extending the home side's lead at the top of the table to 5 points. The host opened the scoring 6 minutes into the game as Vinicius picked up Fede Valverde's pass to curl a superb long-range shot in for his 7th league goal of the season. Bellingham doubled the lead after Vinicius' through ball set him up for an easy finish past Girona goalkeeper Paulo Gazzaniga in the 36th minute. He made it 2 on the night in the 54th minute, knocking in a loose ball in the 6-yard box. Rodrigo sealed the rout after fellow Brazilian Vinicius' second assist in the game, firing a rocket into the far corner in the 61st minute before Joselu missed a penalty in the final seconds of the game. Girona had been unbeaten in 15 league games since their last loss to Real in September, and victory would have moved them to the top spot of the standings, but they remain firmly in second place, with Ancelotti's men on 61 points after 24 games. Qatar successfully defended their Asian Cup crown after beating Jordan 3-1 early this morning at Lusail Stadium, where Akram Afif converted 3 dubious penalties to become the tournament's top scorer as the hosts won their 2nd continental title. Jordan were playing in their first Asian Cup final and seeking a first major trophy, but it was Qatar who prevailed in front of 86,492 fans, including Qatar's ruler Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani and FIFA president Gianni Infantino. Qatar took the lead in the 20th minute when Afif won a penalty as he tried to skip past Abdallah Nasib, and the forward stepped up to find the bottom corners of the net. Jordan equalized midway through the second half when Yazan Al-Naimat controlled a cross with a sublime first touch. evading his marker to fire home for his 4th goal of the tournament. Parity lasted only 6 minutes, however, as Qatar won another penalty after VAR check for a trip on Mahmoud Al-Mahdi, and Afif made no mistake from the spot. Qatar won a suspicious 3rd penalty in added time, when Afif was through on goal and brought down by goalkeeper Yazid Abu Layla, with the forward stepping up to put the game out of reach for Jordan. After the match, Jordan head coach Hussein Amuta did not give a straight answer about whether the referee had erred in awarding the 2 penalties or deserved to be given, and described them as being very costly to Jordan. Meanwhile, Qatar's talisman, who had the spotlight in the Asian Cup final clash, said his teammates' faith in him was commendable, which he also attributed to being one of the factors he was able to convert the penalties.
يعني هو ثقة اللاعبين وثقة المدرب والجماهير، هالشيء هو اللي يعطيني الدافع اني اسجل قبل ما يكون في تكنيك ولا يكون في اختيار الزاوية. يعني أنا بس أحس إن إذا في حد يدعمني إن شاء الله راح نسجلها، وسجلت الحمد لله. ومبروك مرة ثانية، مبروك لإخواننا الخليجيين، بعد إحنا كنا نمثل الخليج، وبالعكس أنا ما أقدر أقول هارد لك للأردن، أقول مبروك للأردن، الشيء اللي سووه اليوم وصولهم للنهاية هاي شيء كبير ونبارك لهم. شكرا.
Sticking to football news, we move to the Premier League. Manchester City just briefly touched the standings summit, only to be swiftly knocked back off it by Liverpool on Saturday, in a sign of what is likely to be in store over the coming weeks in a nail-biting title race. It meant that the day ended as it had begun, with Liverpool 2 points clear of City, who have played 1 game less. At the Etihad Stadium, City found Everton a tough nut to crack, and they did not master a shot on target in the opening half. Such is the firepower available to Pep Guardiola that even the stiffest resistance is usually pierced, and Erling Haaland's return to the scoresheet was inevitable. His 15th and 16th goals of the season saw the Norwegian reclaim sole top spot in the league's scorer list. His second setup by Kevin De Bruyne, also recently back from injury. At Anfield, Liverpool were not at their fluent best against Vincent Kompany's Burnley, but did enough to get over the line on what Jurgen Klopp called a super difficult day. The Reds were gifted the lead when Burnley goalkeeper James Trafford failed to claim the ball from a Trent Alexander-Arnold corner, and Diogo Jota headed home his 9th Premier League goal of the season. But they were packed back just before half-time when Dara O'Shea powered a bullet header past Liverpool goalkeeper Calvin Kelleher. Liverpool were a different proposition after the break and got their reward when Luis Diaz headed them back in front in the 52nd minute. The visitors had several inviting chances to equalise before Darwin Núñez's header from Harvey Elliott's cross secured the vital win. Liverpool now have 54 points from 24 games, with City on 52 from 23 games.
Salam sejahtera kepada semua. Saya mengambil kesempatan ini untuk mengucapkan selamat menyambut Tahun Baharu Cina kepada mereka yang meraihkannya. Semoga tahun naga ini membawa lebih banyak tuah dan kebahagiaan untuk kita semua. Dan jangan lupa untuk menonton RTM. Selamat menyambut Tahun Baharu Cina.
And that wraps up this edition of Malaysia Tonight. In our top story, Pan-Borneo Highway to be redesigned due to soil movement. My name is Daryl Baptist. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thanks for tuning in. Good night.